Oh, America, land of the free and home of the giant SUVs. Well, now there's other brands like BMW and Mercedes who make SUVs this large now, but of course, America is where these were bred. And the GMC Yukon is nothing short of absolutely massive. And today, I'm going to be telling you all about it. I'm Aiden, and you're watching God Next. Now, I say the GMC Yukon is absolutely massive, and especially this one because this is the XL, which means it's got around 2 inches more of legroom in the back, and it's got 15 cubic feet more of cargo space than the typical Yukon would. But this thing is huge. It's so big it qualifies for the 6,000 GWVR tax break that you can get if you buy a vehicle this large for your business. But this thing, especially in black, it looks really, really good and really stately. A large grille, which really exasperates the fact that it's this size. It's built on the same platform as the Escalade and the Tahoe, of course, and they all look mildly similar. It looks a little better now for this generation of the Yukon. Before, they looked very similar, especially between the Tahoe and the Yukon. This new generation that they came out with around 3 years or 4 years ago now, they differentiated a little more. But with this large car, of course, you also get a large powertrain. Now, powertrain options, you do have a diesel option and then 2 V8 options. The diesel's a V6, but this one has the 5.3 liter V8. You can get a 6.2 liter V8 in this, which is a little more powerful. That's like the 6.2 that you'll find in something like a Camaro or something like that. And that 5.3 liter V8 is only available on these lower end trim levels. This is the SLT and the SLE, and the AT4 actually get access to the 5.3. If you go above that, only the 6.2 and the diesel are available for you to choose. So great powertrain options, though. It could be a little more, if you want a little more power, you have to get the 6.2. This only makes around 355 horsepower and close to 400 pound-feet of torque, so it could be a little higher. So if you want more, make sure you get the 6.2 liter V8. Of course, you have the LED headlights, which look great. I just can't believe how massive we keep making these SUVs, especially with how expensive gas has gotten. But you still see plenty of people buying these cars, and people drive the hell out of them. So of course, yeah, it's great. Now, if you're interested in hauling 7 people around and also like 5 suitcases, then the Yukon XL is definitely going to be for you. So like I said, there's about a 15 cubic foot storage difference when it comes to the regular Yukon and the Yukon XL. The regular Yukon, it'll cut off just about right here if you have the 3rd row up, and that leaves around 25.5 cubic feet of cargo space. I guess it's not right here, it's more like right here. But with the XL, of course, like I said, now you get 41.5 cubic feet of cargo space, that 15 extra additional ones, and the seats are way farther in, and you can actually sit back here now that they're, all the rows are up and everything like that, but you have plenty of cargo space. And you can also see these all-weather floor mats right here. That's an option that you can get. So if you want all-weather floor mats, not from WeatherTech, then you can buy them directly from the factory. Yeah, but tons of stuff. This one also has the SLT luxury package on it, which means you have this electronically folding 3rd row seat right here, and power raising as well. Now, inside up front in the Yukon, it's genuinely a nice place to be. I'm a firm believer that if you're wanting a large SUV, go American with it, because the German brands are incredibly pricey, yet the American brands deliver almost exactly the same amount of luxury features, so you might as well just go American and save a bunch of money. Plus, these SUVs also look really good. But anyways, on the inside, of course, you have a digital gauge cluster. You have the center screen. The interesting thing is if you get a high enough trim level, this center control stack completely changes, and the screen completely changes to be more flush with the dashboard. This setup currently resembles a lot of what the Tahoe looks like versus what the higher trim level Yukons actually look like. So if you want the embedded screen in the dashboard, then definitely go for the higher trim levels, like Denali or something along those lines. Anyways, infotainment system, let's talk about that. This is actually pretty good, and Ford just implemented this, but Chevy's been doing it for a little bit longer, is the Android Automotive Infotainment System, which basically makes it so that the car companies don't have to build crappy infotainment systems anymore. Google just handles that now, which is much better because Chevy's old system was kind of dog water, so not very good. One thing I do hate, though, are these buttons on the dashboard. I would rather just have a column shifter than these buttons, because these get, all you need to do is when you mean to go into, like, let's say reverse, your hand slips and you press park, and that's no fun. So yeah, not a big fan of this. Materials in here though are nice. Dashboard's nice. The steering wheel is nice. I wish it was a little bit thicker. This is kind of thin. It makes me think of a car from like the 70s with the little thin steering wheel thickness. So yeah, I wish this was a little thicker, though the steering wheel is heated, and this one does have adaptive cruise control. On higher trim levels, you can get Super Cruise. If you don't know what that is, that's Chevy or GM self-driving system. And unlike Ford, they call it the same thing across the entire model range. Ford has a different name for Lincoln. And unlike other brands, Super Cruise is pretty good. So, good job, GM. Other things, heated and cooled seats. You have 2 different heated seat modes, one for the back and your bottom, and one for just the back. And of course, ventilated seats, which is nice. Dual zone climate control, which is pretty cool. Wireless charger, and a insane amount of center storage. You have a USB Type-C and a USB Type-A in here with about what looks to be like 2 gallons worth of storage, so that's pretty insane. And also you get this pretty neat plastic tray that is always going to be in your way. Other connectivity, you have a 12-volt socket up here, another USB Type-C and a USB Type-A, cup holders here, so 4 cup holders, and then more in the back. The seats are nice and comfortable. GMC calls them bucket seats on their website. These aren't bucket seats. I don't know what the fad is with calling them that. They just have a tiny bit of bolstering. 2 colors you can get on this interior are going to be black and a whitish, like grayish color, but this is definitely the right option, especially because the people who buy these have kids. And if you want high C all over your white seats then, or gray seats, then probably not the, I get the white then, but like the black seats are probably going to be the better option though. Overall, this interior looks great. I just love the way they're doing it. Oh, by the way, this is 4-wheel drive. So if you do get the 4-wheel drive one, all your transfer case modes are going to be on the far left over here on the other side of the steering wheel, along with your other stuff, so like your camera settings, parking sensors, and your parking brake. So again, I would rather have a lever in the center or a foot parking brake rather than a button parking brake on the side. You know how long it took me to find this thing when I first initially had to turn off the parking brake? Like, oh, quiet. Okay, that's about it for the front. Let's head to the back. Now, in the back seats of the Yukon, I'm gonna be honest with you guys here, it's pretty nice. So this one has the SLT luxury package, which means you get heated seats in the rear, plus these little climate control things, which looks really nice, and they have this silver knurling on them, which it's definitely plastic, but yeah, it looks nice, and you have different climate modes back here, and 2 USB Type-Cs, so your older children will be happier because they can charge their phones and brain rot their brains even more than they already have been. But yeah, heated seats, climate control is really nice. The legroom is surprisingly good back here. Like, I really didn't think it would be this good. And then, of course, these backseat pockets. This has the all-weather floor liners back here as well. Like I said, that is an option that you can get from the factory. That way you don't have to go buy them aftermarket. GMC does that for you. But other than that, I mean, there's not a large amount of things to talk about. I like the consistency of the materials that they've gone back here with. More of this black leather that they got going on, and then the fake wood inlays right here, and then more of that smoker tainted stitching. Captain's chairs, which is nice, and then these armrests. I think you can get, the captain's chairs are, I'm pretty sure, are part of the luxury package. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they're part of the luxury package. And then, of course, because this is a 3-row SUV, we should probably go check out the 3rd row, which is going to be painful, but, you know, let's do it anyways. So in the 3rd row, and I guess it's not as much torture as I really thought it was going to be, this must not be smoker stitching because it's this weird color back here. I wish it was white. It's not very good looking. Anyways, you have 2 USB Type-Cs, one on either side for your 3rd row passengers. And the legroom back here honestly isn't that bad, but like I said, you get 2 additional inches of legroom back here if you get the XL. In a typical regular like Tahoe or Yukon or Cadillac Escalade, you would definitely be back in, your knees would be into the back of the seat. I know that because my parents had a Tahoe, a typical, like a regular non-XL, and, or I guess they didn't have a Silverado. So they had a Tahoe, not a Silverado, which would be the Yukon without the XL. Anyways, my knees were always buried in the back of the seat. But now with the XL, clearly that 2 inches really shows. Other than that, back here, the seats are quite uncomfortable. And I think that's just because GMC hates your kids. No, anyway, I'm just joking, but I think they're just not going to be as nice as the second or definitely the first row. More cup holders and storage like that back here as well. And I didn't mention this before, but the headroom in this car is fantastic. So it doesn't matter if you're like 6'5", you'd probably fit back here perfectly fine. Maybe not back here, but there'd be plenty of headroom for you. All right, so driving the Yukon XL, I do want to correct myself earlier. You cannot get a 6.2 liter on the SLE, SLT. You have to go up towards the higher level trims to get access to that engine option. So you're just stuck with the 5.3 liter or the diesel V6. And those, I don't know of many Yukons or Tahoes that get spec'd with that motor. So I don't really think you're going to be seeing it all that often. But anyways, even with the 5.3 liter, which is still a great engine and has been around for quite a while, I don't think it's underpowered for its use case. Yeah, it's mid 300s, which isn't great, but I don't think it's underpowered for its use case at all. I think the more important thing is it comfortable to drive. Its gas mileage sucks, which that's a given because of this motor itself, but I think for the most part, the engine fits the vehicle. The 6.2 is definitely better. And the funny thing is you can actually get a performance exhaust system directly from Chevy if you build the vehicle online. You can spec a performance exhaust system. That way your Yukon can be extremely loud. Now, other than the engine, which is fine, and because I'm stuck at a red light, I guess I have time to rant. My only issue with the Yukon and GMC altogether as a brand is that it seems kind of pointless to me, especially because GMC focuses on SUVs and trucks. They don't have any cars like Chevy used to. But the Tahoe, unless you get an extremely high-spec GMC, the Yukon is the Tahoe. I mean, that's basically it. That's how I feel about this, is the way we have this Yukon spec'd, the SLT with the SLT luxury package, is literally a Tahoe High Country to a T. And I think the High Country has a little bit more. I don't know if this one has air suspension. It feels like it has air suspension, but the Tahoe High Country has air suspension. Now, this drives well, and I guess now that I'm on a highway, I can actually talk about it. This drives extremely well, and it's extremely soft, and the steering is super forgiving. With how heavy and big this thing is, blind spots are a pretty big annoying thing, especially when we were just driving around a parking garage with this. Blind spots are horrible in this car. Luckily, this one has a 360-degree camera that I can just turn on and look at the screen. But blind spots in this thing are horrible. So if you're not used to driving a car like this, or a big body-on-frame SUV like this one, it could be extremely hard when it comes to tight spaces, especially because this is a guy who drives a Model 3. So yeah, it's a little not new, but it's not what I'm used to. But yeah, steering is great, and you feel so high up and commanding, yet, it feels like a car that you can just drive on the road so comfortably. These are great road trip machines too, other than their gas mileage sucking, but their tanks are big, so you can get up in the mileage. Now, clearly whoever drove this before me was just beating on it, because this is at a half a tank with 150 miles left and 11.7 miles per gallon. So, but at 15, which that would probably be sitting at more like we get 400, and if you get to 20, which I doubt you will, but if you get to 20, you're more going to be at like 500 miles to a tank, which is pretty good. So these are road trip monsters, super comfortable. One thing I wish is that I didn't have to pay, $76,000 for what is a Tahoe. Now, and you can get a lot of this in a non-high country too. So don't be fooled. You don't have to buy a GMC to get all this stuff. And that's kind of what I was going into earlier, is that GMC's this middle child that if you're going to buy a Denali, that's fine. But if you're going to spec the living crap out of a Denali, you might as well just get an Escalade. And if you're going to get a Yukon but not spec the living crap out of it, you might as well save money, maybe add 1 or 2 extra options and get a Tahoe or a Silverado. Because that's basically what the Yukon is, and honestly the Silverado or the Sierra with the Silverado. They're just so similar. And GMC, yes, you see them, but it's not like it's not like they sell as much cars as the Chevrolet brand does. And that's kind of the thing, you know. I just passed like 3 generation old GMC Yukon on the road. And back then it was even worse. Back in like 2012, the Tahoe and the Yukon were basically the same car, which is quite funny. So if you decide that you want a Yukon, what are you going to end up paying for this? Well, the way this one is spec'd right now, it's going to be roughly $76,000, $77,000. More once you add in the dock fees and all that other stuff that you're going to have to pay when buying it from a dealer. But to be honest with you, I don't think that's an unfair asking price. I mean, if you want to save a little bit of money, go with a Tahoe. Those do get cheaper, or get an SLE, or drop the 4-wheel drive if you just want to do rear-wheel drive. But it's cheaper than its German counterparts, for sure. 3-row SUVs from Germany are going to be more expensive, and base, they're not going to be as nice as this one is. You want to save a bit of money and you want to have less reliability issues such as electronics and stuff like that, then definitely go with the GMC Yukon or the Chevy Tahoe or Chevy Silverado or Cadillac Escalade. Anyone that's basically in this body style, this is not really much different than the Tahoe. Clearly, the only thing I pointed out was the infotainment system on higher trim levels, but the way this one sits right now, this is exactly the same as something like a Tahoe High Country. So you're really not going to be getting anything special out of the Yukon. That's the thing. But if you get a Tahoe High Country, you'll pay a little bit more, I believe, but you'll get something like air suspension, and I think just the same amount of stuff this one has right now. So just keep that in mind when you're going to look at GMCs. You might want to stick with Chevy because that's a bit of a better deal.